Alright, back again, Luke here. And as you can see in front of you, today we've got out the old Super Famicom, and I figured we could take a look at a cool little adapter here that I just picked up for the Super Famicom that allows you to play some of the cool handheld games that you may have had a chance to play or may have not had a chance to play on your old Super Famicom. What that adapter is this. This is the Super Retro Advance adapter. Now, there were a couple adapters here, I believe, that were made for the Super Famicom. One was like the Super Mega Drive adapter or so, which allowed you to play Mega Drive games on your Super Famicom, which is kind of interesting. And I believe there was a Master System one as well that was released. But what this one does here is it allows you to play Game Boy Advance games on your Super Famicom or Super Nintendo. Now, the cart here is shaped like a European Famicom or European SNES or a Japanese Famicom here, Super Famicom, but it will fit in North American Super Nintendos as well. Very, very simple. It looks like the old Super Game Boy carts. And on the side here you can see it says AV out. On the other side here it says your extension 1. And if we take a look at the back here, you can see all of the details on it. It's made by Retrobit or Retrobit Duo. These are the trademarks here for this company. And with this adapter, what makes it really unique is that they've reverse engineered all of the hardware, basically, that you have for the Super or for the Game Boy Advance, and allowed you to play it on your Super Famicom or Super Nintendo. And what's really, really nice about that is for those of you who have one of like the Game Boy Advance SPs, if you have a little bit of bigger fingers or hands, it can be a little bit tricky to play that, especially on a small screen. So this brings all of that convenience to the console, and it's really nice. So not much to this here. All you have to do is basically just plug it into your Super Famicom. What happens sometimes is if you don't get a good seat on it the first time, the game will not display. Same thing as not having the cart pushed in here. Then on the side, what you'll do is it comes with a pair of regular AV cables. And these AV cables are in pretty nice, they look pretty good. They look pretty sturdy. They don't feel cheap. They don't have the very thin wires that you usually find with a lot of the Chinese like knockoff ones. These ones actually feel really good, really sturdy. So, and the cord here, I mean, it's really thick, so you don't have to worry about this ripping out, which does happen a lot with the other, the knockoff ones. But what you do here is you plug this into the side, and this is where your video is going to come out of. You don't have to have any AV cables in the back for this at all. All of the video is going to come out of the cart itself, which is kind of a unique feature. It has all of the sound channels as well, and all you have to do is plug in the game, turn the power on, and you're ready to go. This will auto adjust to any TV, so it'll make it play in full screen. But the thing that I found out, especially having a couple of widescreen TVs and a couple of smaller monitors, is this looks much better on, for example, a 15-inch monitor than it does on a widescreen monitor. So, like for example here, this is the monitor that I usually use. This is one of my Sharp models. This is a 15-inch monitor and an Aquos. And it shows the picture to a decent resolution, a decent size, really good size for this one, and it doesn't look too pixelated, whereas when you start getting bigger and bigger monitors, the more pixelation you'll notice, and it'll stretch the image out quite a bit. So I don't recommend this one here for anything like widescreen mode or any TVs that are some of the bigger ones. Definitely keeping it around 15-inch monitor is probably the best way to go for this. But a couple things here while I hook this up about this adapter is that it will play Game Boy Advance games, but it will not play Game Boy games as well as Game Boy Color games. So unfortunately, if you have Game Boy games or Game Boy Color games, you can't use this adapter. But if you do have the Super Nintendo, the Super Famicom, Super Game Boy or Super Game Boy 2, those will play the regular Game Boy games and Game Boy Color. If you have the Super Game Boy 2, that'll play the Game Boy Color ones. But this one will only display a white image. So just to give you an example here, I've got a couple of games you can try. Here's a Game Boy Color game, and just pop it in like so. And we'll flip the old switch on, and it takes about a second for it to come up. But you'll see it just comes up with a white screen. Now this isn't because the cart's dirty, it just does not play it, doesn't recognize it. Another one here, if we grab a another Game Boy one. Pop that in. Check some of that. This one also comes up with a white screen. Now, what we'll do is we'll put in a Game Boy Advance game, and you guys can take a look at this. This is where the fun begins. Now, it really displays a nice picture, full screen. So we'll hit this here, and you guys can take a look at this. Once again, this is a 15-inch monitor. And although you can notice some pixelation, it really does depend on the game. Some games look more pixelated than the others. And obviously the closer you get, the more pixelated it gets, but it is not bad at all. This is actually quite good resolution here. If we get really, really close, you guys can see how the pixelation starts up a little bit more. But on the bigger monitors, it looks horrible. It looks absolutely horrible. But you keep it around this size here, it should be pretty good. But fantastic, I mean, the sound, everything, graphics, I mean, it keeps it full screen like this, so you don't have any cutoffs or anything like a small picture in the middle. And it allows you to enjoy all of those great Game Boy Advance games. So there is a lot of them out there on your Super Famicom or Super Nintendo. But you can probably start this up a little bit, and just for fun. Just hit it on continue. Well, just so you guys can get a little bit of a look at it, it's playing at you know, full frame. There's no like slowdown or any glitches or anything like that. It's doing a fantastic job here. And it allows you to play all of these games just the way that you wanted to play them, you know, as if they were originally made for the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom. But nonetheless here, just want to share this with you guys, a little bit of a look at the... turn this off. Oh no! Can't really do too much here with one hand. The Super Retro Advance here for the Super Famicom, Super NES. And if you guys are in the market to pick this one up, I would totally recommend it, as this is one of the few options there are to play the Game Boy Advance games on your TV. There is another adapter that you can get which allows you to change your Game Boy Advance, your regular Game Boy Advance, one of the older ones, into something you can display on the TV. It does require a couple of modifications to it, but from what I've heard with the other one that attaches to your Game Boy Advance, it gets very hot and it causes a lot of issues, like sometimes there's screen tearing or it just doesn't look right. So this is probably the best option that I would recommend if you guys are interested in trying to play your Game Boy Advance games on your Super Famicom, Super NES. This cart here will probably run you around $40, I think maybe $40, if that. Maybe it's a little bit less or a little bit more, but definitely a great way to enjoy a large library of wonderful games out there for the Game Boy Advance. But that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching. Also with the buttons here, it only uses 2 of the buttons on the front here. It uses buttons B and A instead of buttons Y and X, but it does use the bumpers, so the right and left bumpers here. Whee! She's dead. But yeah, a great little setup here, a great little adapter for the Super Famicom.